William Whalen here for GetMoreSports.com, and we have 3 new members of the NCAA Tournament field on Monday evening. Manhattan topples Iona, and then Northwestern gets a big win over William and Mary, and of course Wofford beats Furman, all in conference championship games. All 3 headed to the big dance, and we're here to give you a quick look at some players that you should know from all 3 schools as they get ready to possibly make a run at being a Cinderella in March. First up is the Manhattan Jaspers, and they are led by Emi Andujar, the high-scoring wing from the Bronx, a tough-minded player. He really is the cog that makes things go for the Jaspers. Now, he got some help against Iona, upsetting the conference champion. Iona had run through the conference for much of the season, but the Jaspers have all been here before. Of course, last year they went to the NCAA tournament, and with all they've been through over the last year, with their head coach leaving but not leaving and coming back, there's been a lot of drama around this program, but of course they are advancing. Andujar averaging over 16 points per game, scores 18 against Iona. He can hurt you from a lot of different places in a lot of different ways. He's really the key for me. He's the big key for them in terms of whether they're going to make a run in March or not. They're probably going to be a 15 seed, I would guess. Maybe the win over Iona bumps them up to a 14, but certainly I think that they'll be more around a 15 seed going forward. But Andujar is certainly a guy who can light you up, and when they face off a number 2 seed, maybe against an Arizona or a Wisconsin or a Gonzaga, someone like that, if they get matched up with Gonzaga, I definitely look for him to go off, but definitely a name that you need to keep an eye on. Next up, the Huskies of Northeastern. Really a great story for them. Of course, they finished tied in the league standings with William and Mary and end up advancing to the NCAA tournament. A guy that you got to know, David Walker. Averages 13.5, 3.5, 3.5. Affects the game in a lot of different ways. Is another one of those multi-tool guys. When he's not on, he can certainly get teammates involved. He crashes the boards. He's just another guy who does it all, quite frankly. Northeastern is going to be an interesting seeding situation. They're probably a candidate for a 14 through 16 seed. My guess would be a 15 or 16, given that the conference number 1 isn't very strong. They had 6 losses in conference, but nonetheless, he's a guy who can match up against a lot of guys at the high major level. It's going to be very interesting to see what matchup they do indeed get. Depending on the defensive situations that they run into, he might have to go into facilitation mode, or he might be able to go out and get you some buckets like he has for the Huskies all year. Finally, dealing with the Wofford Terriers, a team that is incredibly balanced. A guy that I've mentioned earlier in the year, and Eric Garcia, a sophomore point guard from Denver, Colorado, chips in 15 points in their win over Furman. Really a guy who can hit from beyond 3 and get teammates involved. He goes 4 for 7 in the conference championship game. But there are really 2 names that you absolutely have to know when dealing with Wofford. The first of which, of course, is Kyle Cochran. He makes them go on most nights. And he didn't necessarily have his best game in the championship game, but nonetheless, a double-digit score. He averages around 14.5 points per game. Certainly can beat you from the outside while also dicing up on the inside a little bit. And forward Lee Skinner doesn't average double figures on the year, only 9.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, but explodes for a big-time game, 17 points in the conference championship win. That combination can do some things, really. I mean, they're an experienced group, and Wofford is a team that schedules well out of conference. They're experienced, they're tough-minded, they're extremely well coached. They're not a team that you want to run into if you are a high major 3 or 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. I do think that they'll be in that range, the 13 to 15 range. So certainly, if they get matched up in the 13 seed line, I do think that they can squeak out a win against an opponent. But nonetheless, I mean, you're still going against a very good opponent no matter what. And so you got to make things happen. You got to have big games out of Skinner and out of Cochran, but a dark horse, as I mentioned, Eric Garcia, the point guard, crafty, smart, level-headed, strong with the ball, dynamic from beyond the arc. If Skinner and Cochran are limited, and a lot of defensive attention is on them, like I'm sure it will be in the NCAA tournament, Garcia going for 4 for 7 from beyond the arc like he did tonight would certainly help them in any upset bid that they try to create going forward in March.